The New Testament commentators and theologians, when they're speaking about the incarnation, if you read any of the stuff on their theology, they usually emphasize God's unilateral intervention. In other words, they usually emphasize God's total power and sovereignty in this issue. It's going to happen no matter what. There is no room for risk, there is no room for doubt, there is no possible way anything could go wrong. As though God was totally independent of all human agency. I want to say to you, that is not what the story says. That is not what we are told in the text. That's what we would like to believe. That's what we have been taught to believe by Greek philosophers and theology that has been influenced by Greek philosophers. But the story, in order for it to be real, in order for God to engage in a real relationship, has to have an element of risk, has to have something of human frailty and fallibility involved in it. Those of you who are looking worried about what I'm saying, let me just say to you, I am not claiming to be Pope here. I am not claiming to be infallible. Some of what I say will be of God, some of it will be me. Some of it will be gold, some of it will be clay. Take it and think about it. But I'm going to tell you something. I believe that God limited himself to human beings. That's the way the story is told. And I don't think it was a unilateral invention. In his gospel, Luke tells us that when the angel told Mary that God desired to bless her with a special child, Mary did not simply acquiesce. Do you know what I mean by that?
No.
She didn't simply say, yeah, okay, whatever, I'm up for it. It says, when the angel said, God desires to bless you with a child, it says she stopped and she thought about it. And she pondered these things in her heart. And then, guess what she did? She asked questions, just like her Old Testament counterparts did. She questioned the angel. She questioned the news from God. How can he possibly do this? I'm a virgin. It is never wrong to question God. He's not scared of your questions. He's not going to slap you as though he's offended to hear your voice in his presence, as though you're disagreeing with him. He wants you to know and to understand. He wants you to engage with his will for your life. He wants to let you know that he's willing to depend on you. He's willing to limit himself to you and your abilities in order to accomplish something through you. That's what the book tells us. And Mary, as I said, is not condemned for her questioning the divine plan, but she's actually given an explanation. She's given an explanation of how it's going to take place. And she's satisfied with the explanation, and she gives her consent. She gives her consent to participate in the activity of God. God, in other words, I'm going to say this, does not unilaterally achieve his goal by forcing his will on Mary. He does not force his will on Mary. That would be a horrible image to most women in the world. And for very good reason. God asks her permission, and she gives it. Now, what does that tell us about our God and his will for your life and my life? What does that tell us about the kind of God we believe in? He's not a bully. He's not some benign, well-intentioned tyrant, divine totalitarianism. He's not into that. That's not what relationship is about. That's the language that is used about relationship are love languages, like family, like friendship, like marriage, like lovemaking. They are the language, not of a totalitarian dictatorship, whether he's divine or otherwise, but of somebody who wants to have an open, honest, vulnerable relationship with people. This is a God who's not going to force himself upon you. I know, I'm going to say this, I wasn't born into it, but I grew up in a, spiritually speaking, in a Pentecostal, charismatic type tradition. And I watched people as a pastor come to the front and ask to be prayed for. Back, I think it began in the 90s, when you prayed for people, they fell down. Please understand me here. I am not doubting this or knocking that or anything like that. But I have talked to so many Christians, and when they've come to the front, you know what they're looking for? They're looking for a spiritual orgasm. They're looking for God to blow their minds and take over their personalities and do all the thinking and deciding for them. He won't do that. He doesn't want to do that. He wants you to come into interdependent partnership with Him. He doesn't want to do your thinking for you or your doing for you. He wants to do it with you. That's what this story is all about. That's what the message of God